we are going to start the webinar for the third and the last day. As usual, I would like to welcome you all on behalf of OIE, and I would like to remind you our basic rules, writing your name and the country. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Then number two is that I would like to remind you all that we will record this as well for future purposes, and also so that we can share it with you later. Then about questions. So at the end of the presentations, there will be a question and answer session. A few participants would be allowed to ask questions verbally, and we always encourage you to type your questions into chat so that we can clearly record your questions. And in case if we will not be able to answer it today, maybe we will be able to answer your questions later. So today the speaker is Mduduzi. Welcome. He is the business project management support attached to the AMR and Veterinary Products Department of OIE headquarters. So he will be the presenter today. And before I hand over the floor to Madhu, so I would like to brief you about what we discussed yesterday. So yesterday, actually, we had about 74 participants in the webinar. And at the end, actually, it was, very encouraging that there were 71 participants until the end of the day. So yesterday, Dr. Morgan presented on the AMU denominator, the animal biomass. And in his presentation, he guided you all to understand the methodology of calculating biomass. And also he explained why it is important to go with biomass over the time, and also this AMU data can be compared between regions. So I hope you were quite clear about his presentation. And also he explained you all how you can calculate biomass, how to convert animal population into biomass, and about the calculation of biomass in animals living more than 1 year and less than, and also how to extract data from available databases like WAHIS and FAOSTAT as well. So this is briefly what we discussed yesterday. And today I would like to invite Mduduzi for your presentation, please.
Thank you very much, Takiri. Let me share my screen. Please confirm if you can see my screen, Takiri. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Welcome again to this final session of the future of the OIE data collection presentation. Again, my name is Mduduzi Magongo. I'm part of the Antimicrobial Resistance and Veterinary Products Department. I am specifically working on the AMU database project, which will be the subject of this presentation. Maybe just before I start, let me tell you why this is important the objective of this presentation. Firstly, as part of our change management strategy, we are raising awareness about this project so that you are aware that we are initiating this kind of project. We are aware that now we are in the fifth round of data collection. So we are now used to data using the current OIE template. In that regard, we want to make sure that the transition between the OIE template and the project is managed as just possible. Secondly, we want to gather more information on how we can tailor this project or system as we develop it. This will be subject of the following presentation. So our agenda for today, we will cover the recommendation, the project overview, the development phases, the country's needs, AMU reporting, AMU accessibility, the immediate benefits, the future steps, and we'll briefly discuss the questionnaire. As the Secretary has indicated that we will allow questions at the end of the presentation so that we can answer questions directly directed to me or to any other of the participants that have, to the other presenters who have presented before me. So one of the recommendations of the second OIE Global Conference on Antimicrobial Resistance that was held in October 2018 was to convert the current spreadsheet into an online database system. There are many benefits of using an online database system, which we will discuss in the coming presentation. So just to give you a brief overview of the project, we are setting up a tool that will allow member countries to submit their annual data on AMU. This will allow member countries to submit their data online. The software will be integrated with forms. My colleague Delfy did present the questionnaire and the calculation. So the software will be integrated with all the softwares and all the calculations that she presented the day before. So our approach in terms of meeting the members' needs, we want to tailor this development to your needs. So it is very important that we tailor this development to your needs, and this will be part of the second part of my presentation later on. We more importantly want to improve members' countries' ownership of their data. We are aware now that you are currently sending data to OIE, but we want to move into a position where you also have access to your own data. You are able to analyze and make decisions based on the data that you submit to us. Just briefly to discuss the phases of the project. The project is broken down into 3 phases. Phase 1, which is the must-have features or the critical features, will be delivered in the first phase. Phase 2, which is the should-have features, includes the integration with OIE-wise for the reporting of animal biomass. This was discussed by Morgan in yesterday's session. Phase 3 is futuristic. We want to integrate with other applications, and we also want to have the possibility of farm level reporting by species. We are aware that from previous rounds of submissions, member countries have indicated the lack of tools and human resources as some of the barriers to reporting quantitative data. So our approach, we are responding to that need. Our approach is basically through such workshop is to gather as much input from you as we develop the system. We'll discuss this in detail in the second part of this presentation. As part of reporting online, we want the system to maintain the same format as the current OIE template so that things is not very big. We also would like to maintain the possibility of countries to use the current Excel file. That means we are not taking away the possibility of countries to submit using the Excel file. This will still be available. If for some ever reason you still prefer to use the Excel file, this will still be possible. We also, countries will also be able to see previous and update other see and update the previous reports What this means is basically all the data that you have submitted so far will be migrated into the system, and you'll have access to all the data that you have submitted. In terms of reporting possibilities, as I've just indicated, you still have access to, you still have the possibility to upload, to report using the Excel file, which will then be uploaded into the database system. However, we encourage member countries to submit directly into the system, because there are a lot of benefits of reporting directly to the system, especially the fact that all the calculations will be integrated within the application. You still have the reporting options, baseline information, options 1, 2, and 3. In terms of data privacy, countries will have complete control over their data. This is important for us to maintain data confidentiality and privacy. Countries will only have access to their own raw data. In terms of system accessibility, the system will be cloud-based and accessible worldwide using a web browser and username and password. It will also have a responsive design. That means you can access the system using a laptop or any mobile device. So in the next couple of slides, I would like to discuss the benefits of the system. My colleague, as I mentioned earlier on, Delfy, discussed in detail the calculations. All the calculations will be integrated within the application, and it will help in the calculation of quantities of antimicrobials. In terms of error detection, the system will be equipped with an error detection mechanism that will allow the accuracy of reported data, especially in the calculation of active ingredients. We are aware that the current processes are manual and they are time-consuming. One of the benefits of the system is to alleviate the time-consuming workload for both member countries and the AMU team. For example, the analysis of data, which is currently being done manually. So with the introduction of this system, this will be automated. The system will also be integrated with a business intelligence tool for better analysis of collected data, so that you can have valuable insights and visualization of imported information. More importantly, countries will also be able to access their own data, analyze and download their own data online, and create various graphs for more information. In essence, we are trying to enhance the ownership of data for member countries. One of the other benefits which are touched on in this part of phase 2 is the integration of OIE with the AMU thing. What this means is basically there'll be a connection between the AMU system and OIE to provide an analysis of antimicrobial quantities adjusted by animal biomass, which was discussed by Mo in yesterday's session. So what are the future steps? We are aware that countries report data mostly from imports and sales, but we want to move further down the line to have the possibility to report at species level. So to summarize what I've just presented, the future of the OIE database system will allow countries to report at species level. The system will be integrated with formulas that will countries to calculate and report quantities, thus improving the accuracy of data. Countries will have access to their own data, which they can analyze and make informed decisions. As part of phase 2 of the project, the AMU system will be connected or integrated with OIEs to provide an analysis of antimicrobial quantities adjusted by animal biomass. The system will also be integrated with a business intelligence tool to allow for faster and accurate reporting. We will now move on to the second part of the presentation, which is a questionnaire that has been sent already to member countries, to all participants. This questionnaire is designed to get information from member countries. What I would like, if you haven't received it yet, I would just maybe copy it. I just wanted to paste the link so that everyone has access to this questionnaire. So don't worry if you haven't received this questionnaire, you will have access to it up until maybe the 7th of April. So what you are trying to do with this questionnaire, we are trying to get your requirements. It's part of our user requirements gathering process. We want to tailor the development of the system as much as possible to your needs. So what I would like to do now is just to show you some of the questions that we've developed and the responses that we've received so far. I won't go into all the questions in the interest of time. I'll just highlight maybe the first, maybe 4 questions. For question 1, I'm not sure if you can see, but so far we have received 16 responses. We have been asking, the question 1 is asking whether you are aware of the AMU system. About 62% responses have been, 62.5% is no, and 37.5% is yes. So this is expected at this stage of the project because we are still initiating the project. So I'll just maybe briefly also touch on question number 4, which is asking what is the most challenging part of completing the OIE template. In this case, you are able to use free text to provide an answer. So we encourage countries to respond to this question. What we will do is then analyze each of the responses as a project team and make sure that we consider these requirements. So that goes the same for question 5, which is asking the future, how we can overcome some of the challenges that have been indicated in question 4. I would like to briefly, maybe just to also go to question 13. Question 13 is asking, is saying the future, in the future, OIE will provide the possibility of reporting data at level by species. We want to understand, how, if this is possible. As you can see from the responses, from the 16 responses, I know some responses have been done by email. We have up 62.5% who have responded that in 5 years' time, and about 12.5% in 10 years' time. So just to summarize, this is very important for us to gather what information, how we can tailor the solution to your needs as much as possible. In question 14, you can provide any general comments that are not provided by this questionnaire. So again, we encourage participants to access the link and provide their answers. Not maybe right now, but still have access to the questionnaire up until next week. This will then allow us to develop the system based on what you provide in this questionnaire. Maybe I'd give the floor back to Takiri for the question and answer session. As I've indicated that I think probably it's a good idea to have more time, as this is the last day. So we can have an interactive session either directly to me or my colleagues who have presented before. Thank you. Over.
Okay, thank you, Mduduzi, for your presentation and providing the feedback, rather findings of the questionnaire findings for the time being. So, anybody who is interested of asking a question?
Maybe I can just try maybe just to give some timelines in terms of the project as to initiate the discussions. So the project, we have just finalized the engagement with the supplier, and the plan is that maybe in about 2-3 years time, we'll able to deliver the system that will be used by member countries to submit their data online. That is for phase 1 of the project.
Yeah, Madhu, there's a question from Thailand.
Okay.
Ask in case if they want to cite data from OIE AMU database for publication, do I need the permission from data owner or OIE? From Thailand.
Okay. I think when you say permission, just maybe for clarity, that same data that you have submitted, because this will be your same data that you have submitted, I see no problem in terms of having permission to cite the publication of data, if it's particularly from you.
So Thailand, is that what you expected, or is there any other? Oh, there's another question from New Zealand. They ask, will OIE be collecting information on route of administration?
Yes, that is part of phase 3 of the project. As I indicated, that we want to consider as part of the phase 2 of the project, we want to consider some of the futuristic of the system. We include route of administration.
So if Delfy or Morgan, you have something to add?
Yes, just to clarify that the routes of administration can actually be reported to OIE for the future database. This will be done during the first phase of the data collection. And as Mdu said, there will be more details to collect other type of data that we are not actually collecting, for example, animal species, and other features that we will need to think during this time. And just yes, just to maybe to add something to Mduduzi's reply. For the confidentiality of the data, as you know, all the data that we receive so far is confidential, and it's you are the owners, countries are the owners of their own data, and they need to decide if they want to make this public or not. And for the future database, it will be the same way of acting. We will ask you in this new software if you would like to make this data publicly available or not, and if not, we will respect that. And also there will be something in the middle. For example, if you would like to share to the public, to only antimicrobial use team, or maybe to other departments at OIE. So we are thinking of 3 levels of confidentiality of the data. Over.
Okay, thank you, Delphi. There's a question from Myanmar asking how can we get AMU data collected and analyzed data by OIE to advocate its control? So I'm not very clear. So it's, I mean, whether they mean the country data or...
Okay, I'm also not sure. I'm not sure if I'm getting the question correctly. But what I can maybe just clarify that, as Delphi has just indicated, we only publish aggregated data, so it is not it would be confidential. It would not be specific to any country, but each and every country will have access to their own data, which they can analyze and make further decisions.
Okay. So there's another question from Myanmar, follow-up question. Can countries share experience on getting sales data from markets?
Okay, I'm not sure if maybe Delphi would like to
Delphi,
share
yeah.
on that one.
Yes, just maybe before, just to clarify, I think you already replied to Myanmar questions on how to get antimicrobial use data collection and analyze data. That's what you replied before, no?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, just here, as we already, Mduduzi already shared with us some of the replies from countries, and also there were some, this is related to some of the questions that I received during my session, and because we didn't have a lot of time, we were not able to reply. Just to let you know that actually the OIE, when we are referring to antimicrobial use data collection, the OIE data collection, we are referring with antimicrobial use, not only the farm level use. Of course, if you have this data, you can send it to OIE, but if you are not having access right now to antimicrobial use data, we also accept import data, sales data, prescription, and other type of data that you are that you can access right now in your country. And regarding Myanmar questions, yes, in the future we are planning to collect this type of data, and there will be some features to analyze this data in the future IT project, as we would like that you have access to graphs and to other type of statistics for your data. Then the other question that was just asked is from Chinese Taipei, right?
Yeah.
The data in online system is collected from farmers, veterinarians, feed mills, sales, purchase. As I said, this is related to what I just said. Right now you have all different type of data sources where you can collect the data from. In the future, of course, we might need to adjust our details of levels. Just to clarify that phase 1 is related of this IT system will deliver of what we actually have, meaning reporting option 1, 2, and 3, and with the data sources that are listed in question 17, that we have around 20 different type of data sources. But to go to more detail of levels, for example, species level or farm level use, this will be discussed in the phase 3 of the IT system. Over.
Thank you. Yeah, Bangladesh, I would like to give you the opportunity to ask a question.
Yeah, thank you very much, Tikiri. So, as this is the new software, so as mentioned that this software is placed in the cloud space. So, is there any during the handling of the software? Is there any problem arise in the member countries during handling the software as it may remain in the cloud?
I'm not sure if I'm getting the question correctly. Are you asking if the software will be, you will have access to the software to be hosted within the member country, or you're talking about the support of the system?
Just support of the system.
Okay. In terms of the support of the system, OIE will provide the first line of support in terms of if you have any issues, member countries will report to OIE, and we would follow a tunnel process where we would evaluate the kind of support that you may need based on service level agreements which we will have with the supplier. So any issues that you may face, you are encouraged to report to OIE directly.
Okay, then there's a question from Australia. How can a country assess its own performance comparing to the region or peer countries?
Okay, I'm not sure if Delfy you want to respond to that.
Sorry, Tikir, I think I did not understand your question from Australia.
Yeah, I will repeat it. How can a country assess its own performance comparing to the region or peer countries? So, I think it's from Dr. Mark Schipp. So, can you explain, please?
Yes, I think if Elisabeth would like to make some speaks before.
I mean, it's Elisabeth. I don't know if you hear me because I had some internet problem today, but do you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think that is an interesting question because the idea was that when a country has its own data and what we are published and what we are sharing, like we do in the reports, is regional data. So I think there's a way to find out where a country is compared to the region. If other countries want to share their data, make them public, then for sure that's what we would encourage. As soon as the countries have data that everybody thinks that they are correct, I think would be really good to share them and to make them public. And I think the future will see more countries doing this. But the idea is that each individual country can already see where they stand compared to the region. That's what we do today. And as I have the floor, I wanted to add something else. You know that we have a working group on antimicrobial resistance, and we really try to put all the informations and also the advance on our project on a regular basis to the meeting reports. And we will try to send the meeting reports to all our delegates and focal points. The next meeting will be also remote, so that might be a new experience. But as a general level, all what we're doing on antimicrobial resistance should be sort of captured in the report for transparency reasons. And if you have individual questions, we have a bigger team, as you see now, just come back and ask us. Over.
Thank you, Elisabeth. There's a question from Bhutan. So Dr. Nirmal Kumar Thapa asking, like to know about the validation process. So I guess you are referring to the validation process of data provided by the country? Yeah, Delfy or Morgan or Madhu?
Well, I can, this is Morgan. I can maybe answer that one. The validation process, as we said, depends on what data you're talking about, if it's the questionnaire itself, or if it's giving in raw data for the calculation. Mduduzi presented, the idea is to have the software which is, which we call with a business intelligence, meaning that it some sort will analyze the data as you enter it, and if there's errors the system should be able to flag some of these errors. So there will be this automatic verification of data where you will have to go back to and change if there's errors detected by the system. But we want our human validation, meaning that once the data has been entered and validated automatically by the system, the AMU team will still have the possibility, will have the obligation to validate that data, meaning we want to keep this human eye on the data to continue and understand what's happening with the different countries, so that if the system doesn't see something, we might see it as well. As well, with the experience of the different rounds now, we can see we see certain errors that are repeating themselves over the year. Over.
Okay, thank you. Then there's another question from Australia. So they ask, who has administrator or access rights? How many can the system support per country? So I'm not very sure about this question.
Yes, thank you very much. Maybe I can answer to that question.
Okay, sure. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. The AMU team will have access rights for the full system. And in terms of within the country, we are developing different levels or profiles who will have different rights to the system. So these the particular profiles will be discussed as we engage with the supplier. At the moment, just to maybe what is important to understand is the AMU team will have most of the administrator rights and in the country, and then probably the focal point of the delegate also have certain rights into the system. The number of the users will be finalized and discussed with the supplier in the member countries.
I may just add that we're still in the initiation of the development phase, but basically it would be to mirror something that has been done with OIE Góchez, giving administrative rights to the delegates, and would be able to then give the rights to enter data to the different focal points, or anti-AMR focal point if there's one existing in the country, or things like that. So that indeed, as we're still in the development phase, we still have to clearly outline how many participants will there be by country.
Thank you. There's a question from Alfred FAO Indonesia. Can you kindly present your question, please, Alfred?
Yes, thank you, Tikiri. I would like to know if you also analyze the data production related with the AMU project in here.
I will reply to this question, Tikiri.
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Actually, right now we are, so far we are also receiving production data from a lot of countries. So of course, these will be taken into account for the first phase of the data collection, the production data. And as we said before, the way if you would like to send raw data to the future system, it really doesn't matter from which data source you are sending. There is always a minimal of requirements that you need to send, even if it's from import data, from sales, from purchase, or from farm level data. There is information that you need to send from the veterinary products. So regarding production data, that will not vary that much of what you enter to the system to calculate kilograms of active ingredients from imports or from sales. Yes, these will be taken into account in the first phase of this system. Over.
Thank you, Delphi. There's a question from Thailand actually about, this is related to a comment, answer presented by Morgan. So Thailand, could you kindly explain what is your question.
Okay, do you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, this is
Yeah,
something related to
I think the system of correcting some errors, some human errors, is like how Microsoft BI works, because I have used it recently. It can correct some human errors, especially when you type some text instead of numbers in the number of antimicrobials, for example. I think it's just a comment. It's not a question, actually.
Yes, I think, well, I'm not the most appropriate person to answer. I think Mduduzi has more knowledge on this, but yes, that's exactly the type of system we're going for.
Maybe just to add, yeah, that's correct. It's one of the architecture that we are considering for the solution is Microsoft Power BI with. That's correct.
May I see there's a comment as well from Myanmar asking if it will be more user friendly. What was explained on day one. So I think you're referring to the calculation file. And here again, this calculation file we developed is just a small step. We just tried to create something to help you in the database in reporting data, waiting for this new database system. So yes, it's still an Excel based, and we tried to make it user friendly possible. New system, yes, we are really trying to concentrate on user experience and trying to make it very easy to use and comfortable to use, and not just use for reporting, but also use for having creating national reports, your own reports with your own data. Over.
Okay, thank you. So are there any other questions? So New Caledonia, there's one question. Can you present your question, please? New Caledonia. So what they ask is, think data entered by Vector Farm. So is there validation before submission to OIE? So maybe Delfy can explain that thing.
Yes, so I can see that they are asking when they enter farm level data or from prescription data, if there will be a validation by the veterinary services or the competent authority. So just to let you know that the system so far, as already explained, we need to define the profiles of who will be the persons entering this data. But always, I think even if data is being sent by the private sector, farmers or veterinarians or pharmaceuticals, I think there should always be in the middle a process from the veterinary services, so you know what they are declaring. You are also able to validate and to analyze this data. There was a question on session 1 regarding that you would like, there was a country that would like to send file that we show to the pharmaceuticals, and the experience has shown that always it will be better to conduct some webinars and to train these actors, these stakeholders, on how to collect and to send the data. And it would always be good that at least you are able to some sort of analyze and to take control of these data to make them validate, to validate them. So from our side will be, there's always a part of validation from the countries. There will always be a part of validation from our side. So it will be complementary. The data cannot be validated if the veterinary services has not validated this type of data. Over.
I would simply add as well that as Mduduzi explained to you, that this farm level data is still in the phase 3 of our project. Meaning for the moment, we are really concentrating on the data collection itself as it is done today. and we still have we are still brainstorming really on how we can collect farm level use or field level use data at least. And since I have the floor, I see there's a question on history log functionality to monitor changes made to a country's data by the system users. And yes, that is something we have discussed already. And the system should have a full history log of the data changes and modifications. Over.
Maybe just to add on what just Morgan presented. Yes, the system will have a full audit log, not only just for the users, but for the whole system. It will log what has been done on the system. So yes, that's correct.
So there's another question from Japan. So will we see a difference between data submitted by Excel sheet and by directly typed when we see the data from the future database?
Maybe just, I think you're talking in the future when you will still having the possibility, if you would like to keep using the Excel file and sending it to the system through the Excel, or there is a country that would like to enter and answer the questionnaire through the system. I think that's how I understand the question. So there is a country still using the Excel file and sending this Excel to the system, and there is a country typing everything in the database system. So as we have discussed, we will still having these two possibilities from member countries, and at the end, whatever they enter, if it is one or the other option, at the end, you as a country, you will be seeing the data as everyone. So you will have the same functionalities, you will have the same possibilities to analyze the data. And there will be always a functionality from the system to detect errors on the data before you officially send this to the OIE team. Over.
Okay, thanks, Delphi. So I would like to ask Dan from Australia to present his question, please. Dan?
Yeah, hi everyone. So my question was in relation to, I guess it's probably more in terms of future planning, but are we in any way looking at attempting to define what constitutes a reasonable amount of antimicrobial use for a given production system, so that we have some sort of benchmarking whereby we assess both our own in-country use, but also against some sort of ideal standard which, you know, is considered a reasonable use of antimicrobials?
So can Delphi?
Okay. Let me answer to this one. It's Elisabeth, because I think it's not really related to the database, because the database will just replace the Excel sheet that we're doing today and allow the countries to manipulate or to give to have graphs for their own use. That will not influence any other work on the OIE list of restriction of use or any other changes or updates of standards. This is a different process that will be done through our usual standard setting process, and I think that the list might not really influence in this. The list is just telling what's ongoing and giving the countries a possibility to see where they are. And then also, as this was raised in the first day, there are huge differences between the countries and the system. So before we can sort of go to this step, I think we really need some time to understand what's happening in each of the production systems. I think it's a real separate question. Over.
Okay, thank you. So I can offer you one last question. So if there's anybody, yes, one last question. So seems everybody is happy with the proceedings. So then if no other questions, may I request Dr. Ronello to handle the final session.
Well, thank you very much, Tikiri. And after me, Dr. Kugita and also Elisabeth will give also their concluding remarks regarding the 3 days workshop webinar that we have conducted. First, as indicated during the first day, this is only an introduction to the face-to-face training that we will be conducting later on. Hopefully, if the situation normalize around July, so maybe we can schedule, I will discuss with headquarters, either September or October, but I'm sure because so many workshop trainings meeting has been delayed, everything might be in September, October, November. So we will find the best date, and we will inform you maybe 3 months or 4 months prior what would be the date that possibly we can decide for a face-to-face training. And all the questions that you have asked during the last 3 days, there will be you will have more chances to ask face-to-face with our colleagues from headquarters. And for the meantime, in the next succeeding months, you will have time to practice. Delfy has given you, provided you that Excel, and so which really automatically made this calculation and make all these graphs. So hopefully you can practice with the Excel, and if there you have some question, you can discuss with the colleagues, and also try to get your data that can be used to refine for the biomass calculation. So you could also work on that. The future of the database has been discussed this afternoon, and this will be linked with the future WAHIS. As I mentioned yesterday, the WAHIS will be launched later this year. And once the first phase of this AMU online database that will, I would say, mirror image or the same functionality as the standalone Excel that you will be working, you are working right now. So hopefully in the next year or after Madhu said that it could be in 2 years, it could be functional. So hopefully you could do this online database system. So I would say that thank you very much for all your active participation in this webinar. So now I would give now the floor to Dr. Kugita, and then after that Elisabeth. Dr. Kugita, please.
Thank you, Ronello. This is Kugita speaking from Tokyo, and I'd like to thank you all for active participation. And I also like to thank our colleagues from OIE headquarters Paris, as well as Bangkok office, for very successful organizing this webinar for 3 days. Actually, this is almost first time for us to organize this kind of workshop trainings for 3 days, and it demonstrated very successful. And most likely we will organize this kind of seminar or training using the systems in future. Actually, we are now preparing for another webinar, another training using webinar on WAHIS for your colleagues on of national focal point for disease notification, most likely in June or July. So this 3 days webinar gave us much, good example and experiences for organizing this kind of training. So we will further explore this kind of opportunity to give you more information or more chance to exchange each other's information. So I'd like to thank again for all of you actively participated this training. Thank you very much. Over.
Yes, Elisabeth.
Yeah, I think I will not make it long. I think it's, as usual, this is a project that we have started all together. Since the beginning, we do this in interaction with our member countries, and that's the way we can advance. And we will do exactly the same for this next few years. The transition from Excel to IT will come back to you, we'll ask some countries to help us to share the experience, because there's no way, it's a common project and the results are as good as we are all together. So this will not be different. We try out this new way to connect, which is a bit less, how do you call, it's a bit more formal, but that's the only way we found for the moment. And we'll follow up as usual, but maybe with additional tools like this. But I would encourage you to help us. I think we're learning from each other, but again, I think the result is a common adventure for the veterinary side, and I think that we also get now a lot of very positive feedback from outside, because it starts to be known that we do this all together and that we are progressing step by step. And again, I want to thank everybody who might come back to some of you. We've seen that you have participated with specific question. We don't let it go, but it's very encouraging to see that so many of our colleagues could join, and in these difficult times. And thank you very much for this, and also for sure all the team, because it's new for all of us. Over.
Thank you. And just to announce, at the peak of our webinar, we had 67 participants. And right now, we still have online 61. So I will turn over now to Tikiri for any final announcement.
Yeah, first, I also would like to thank you for your kind participation and support with a lot of questions. So I hope you have find this quite interesting and important. So one request from Mduduzi, actually he's asking you all to respond to the questionnaire. Yesterday we circulated the questionnaire. As much as possible, we would like to see your responses. That would be quite helpful. So with that, yeah, that's all from me at the moment. Thank you very much again.
So just last announcement from my side, for those that has not submitted yet their EMU questionnaire, that I think Delfy has already mentioned that on the first day, and we will be sending you follow-up emails. Please do so, so we could have, if possible, 100%. I hope those who are participating, all of you have already submitted. And for those who are asking for the PPT, the PDF file of the PPT is circulated by email. And if no one, those who have attended and you don't have a link, or you only receive a forwarded link, you don't have a copy of the PPT, just let us know, and then we will provide you those PDF files of the PPT. And regional website, and you can also share the link for all your colleagues who would like to watch the 3 days webinar. Again, thank you very much.